to episode 52 of Meet the Gimp. My name is Rolf Steinert and I'm recording this in Bremen, northern Germany. The trip to Čakovec has been quite eventful. You've heard right, I'm recording this in Bremen and not Čakovec, Croatia. First, the airplane was late and so I had only a short time to go from Zagreb airport to the bus station in the town center. Had to find out how to get my ticket there and enter the bus. And then, halfway along the road, the gearbox exploded. It gave a terrible sound and the bus stopped. And, well, we were in the middle of a 2-hour bus trip between the two centers where the buses are and had to wait over an hour for the replacement bus. Luckily for us, it hasn't been that deserted as this image shows, but we stood just in front of a supermarket and could rate that for water and cookies. And so the whole bus load spent an hour sitting in the sun on the wall of the supermarket, talking a bit and having a good time. And I think this sums up my impression of Croatia of this short time I've been there. I haven't met one person being impatient. And on the other side, everything that had to be done had been done. When I needed help, I found it, and everybody I talked to was very friendly. So Croatia is a country I'll be happy to return to. The Slobodny festival was great. Croatia seems to have a very lively open source community, and a lot of them met there. They came from overall from Croatia and had some guests from outside. And as I was on kind of a holiday there in Croatia, let's tackle some holiday shot problems. This is the first one. When you shoot from the window of a commercial aircraft, you are usually shooting through 2 layers of thick plastic, not thoroughly cleaned for photographic use, and then you're shooting through several thousand meters of, well, dusty and perhaps misty air. And you get these images here. If you are really into air photography, then you have to get a small aircraft and go way below this height here. This here is the Chiemsee in Bavaria, shot shortly after takeoff in Munich, on my way to Zagreb. And you see here a typical collection of the problems you have got with these kinds of shots. It's a bit bluish and soft, soft, soft. It looked much crisper while I looked through the window, but our eye adjusts so very well to different conditions that you are disappointed, often disappointed, when you look at the image from the camera. So let's look what the problem with this image is. First, let's look at the histogram with the curves tool. And here you see this image has really no dark parts. All the stuff that happens is here in, well, around a quarter of the whole range of the image. The reason for this is that there is a lot of stuff floating in the air, dust and mostly water droplets. And every of these dust particles and water droplets, they shatter the light, and so you get soup, mixed light from behind. And we have to try to get this back into order. One way would be to, well, just to crunch this. Let's try this. Down to here. And let's look these dark parts here. Where are they in the image? Oh, well, there. Not in danger to be flattened. And perhaps even increase the bright parts a bit. I have saved this image as justcurves.jpg, and if you want to, you can download it from the usual place. You find it at meetthegimp.org, and have a look at it and experiment any further. The original shot will there be too. Now let's try to use the Levels tool. I just click into the image and get this dialog here. With the Levels tool you have basically the same control as with the Curves tool, but in a different way represented to you. Let's have a look around in this dialog. It is a bit similar to the Curves tool, and it can basically do the same, but in a different representation. And of course we have here the histogram, and we have here a gray bar which represents the values above here. And you'll see in a moment that this bar changes a bit. Then we have here a thing called pick black point, gamma, and pick white point. The black point is the point where you define something to be black, and everything that's darker in the original image will be black too in the final image. I had defined the black point in the Curves tool just by pulling the left one of these points to the point where I wanted the curve to start. And so let's try to move this slider here. And you see everything changes a bit. I have moved the black point to 113. This point here has moved to, this is middle gray. And the white point has stayed where it is. Gamma, the middle value here, has stayed too at the value it was. Gamma is the curve, the form of the curve. I have just used in the Curves tool a straight curve. And this straight curve is gamma 1. When I pull the curve down, gamma gets lower. When I pull the curve up, and it has a little bit of a back or so, when I pull the curve up, gamma gets up too. So now let's look at the image here. I think I'm fine with these sailboats at being wide. Let's zoom a bit into the image and look at one of these sailboats. That's quite wide, but let's just pick this here as white. No, sorry, that was wrong. So 195, this is wrong. So I go. The reason for this behavior is the size of the color picker, and I can adjust this here in the tool options for this tool. You see here histogram scale is linear, and the sample average, that is the radius of my tool, was 3, and now I go down to 1 and try this again. If you count 3 pixels from here, you're getting here such a blob, 6 pixels in diameter, and this sampling, well, it gives such a low rate. Now I click here on the white of the sail. Well, this can be a bit better. This is better, but I think I'll leave it at this. I got down with the curves tool. I got down a bit too, but way more. I think I set it at the white point to here. And now let's look at gamma. You see, if when I pull this up here, the image gets a bit darker. Gamma has been lowered, the same effect as if I would pull the curve down a bit in the curves dialog. And I think somewhere here is the right thing. If you look now at this bar here, it has 2 zones. The original one here, or the lower one here, is the original shades of gray in the image, and the top one is the colors that are translated from that. So this here gets black, this light gray gets middle gray, and this gray here, light gray, gets white. I have another tool here, the output levels. I can just say this image is a bit too dark for me, and I want to give the impression that this is a little bit dusty from above, and pull up the output levels a bit. That is to say, I don't want to have any colors below 20. I don't want to have real black. And I think this is okay for a first try with the levels tool. Let's have another try with the levels tool, because there's something that I haven't shown to you up to now. We have here some buttons on the bottom. One is for saving and opening the options you have set. Imagine you have a lot of shots from a holiday from the airplane, and you want to adjust all them in the same fashion. Then you just save your one setting and well, open it and apply it in the next step. This can be also automated with a script, but I won't cover that now. But here are some interesting buttons. This is one here, the auto button. Just press it, and the image gets analyzed, and the settings are set to the optimum values. The computer thinks are right. What I don't like is that these sliders here on top are not updated. This definitely needs some fine-tuning, but I can't do much because these values here are not updated. I can only make the effect here stronger than it is and not lighter, because these sliders are not updated by the auto button. Perhaps I should file this as a bug in, or as a wish feature request in the .gimp.org. I'll think about it. I'll save this here as levelsauto.jpg. And now let's have a last try with this here. And these are these 3 buttons here. With these 3 buttons I can pick a point which I want to have white, like this one here. I can pick a point which I want to be black, and I can pick a gray point, a mid-gray. So let's try this. I zoom into the image, and let's first try this sailboat again, pressing on white, and now I want to move in the image, and I'm just holding the the space key pressed, and then I can just move the mouse, and not pressing the mouse button, the image moves with the mouse cursor. So let's try this here. White. Perhaps I shall zoom into it a bit more. This was the ship I used last. White. And now let's look for something that shall be set to black. And I think the darkest part are these forests here. It's not the black forest, but okay. Now you see a very strong effect, and also this here hasn't been updated on top. This would be really nice. So this looks not bad, and I can adjust now for a medium gray, but I don't find anything here that I would think should be medium gray. But well, I think I just zoom into here. No, this is definitely white. If I press on something colorful, I can show you here. If I press on, let's say I want to have this value here, medium gray, then this time I get everything white. I had very strange colors with that, so I'm not so happy with these options, at least not for this type of image. Auto worked quite well, you'll see it, and this is basically it's the same with the curves tool, but I like the curves tool more. But perhaps this is more for you. Just experiment with this. Let's now have a quick look at the curves tool again with this new information. Here it is. I could set in the levels dialog the black point. I do this by sliding this over to here. You get the numbers here in this case, in this box. There you can see the black point is now at 100. I can set the white point by sliding this over to here, and I have now 244. And you can set the black value of the output by pulling this up here. Now nothing is darker than 21 in the whole image. You can even go up here. And the last thing, you can change gamma by pulling this curve up or pulling this curve down. But as far as I know, the gamma correction works only in the middle of the curve, so I can use this or this, but I can't do this that I can with the curves tool, and especially I cannot do something like this here. Now we get very strange results here. So I think if you want to do a little bit more with the I think if you want a little bit more with adjusting the curves or the levels of an image, I would use the curves tool. But well, I'm happy with this graphical representation of the values. Perhaps you are not, and then you are better off with the levels tool. Up to now we have changed the colors directly, but of course there's also a way that involves layers. Let's try the old double the layer and set it to overlay mode thingy here. Overlay, you think gets a bit better, and now I start to double these. You see it doesn't really work. And if you think a bit about it, well, Of course it doesn't work, because if we look at the curve again here, you see here in the curve everything of the image is in the upper half of the color range, of the data range between 0 and 255. And the overlay mode makes everything darker from here to here and brighter from here to here, and increasingly so if you go near the edges. And well, this can't work because all of the image, except perhaps for something that is well below here, gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And so we get this result here. So nothing to be proud of. Let's delete them. And try a trick that I read about in Akana Pack's book, GIMP from Novice to Professional. I can strongly recommend this book. It's the best one I've read up to date about GIMP. And she says, set the mode to burn. And you see, this works. I think this is even a bit more natural than the thing I tried with the curves tool. And let's try to double this layer. This is way too much, but I can now reduce this a bit. I think this looks great here. Of course, I could also try to set this mode to overlay and reduce or use the overlay trick with this. Now let's check that. So back to full and set to overlay. Switching on and off. Well, works better. So the good thing, or the advantage compared to the curves thingy, is that I can have second thoughts here. I don't have to change everything and make a new curve. I can just adjust this and play with the values. See what happens if I go down here. Nothing good, but if I double this again and go down to 20 or something like that, and then go to my overlay mode and switch that off and on, you see a combination of these layers here can work very well. So I'll save this here too, and now you have a whole lot of tools how you can tackle these shots. I'll save this as layers.jpg. Let's have a last look at these images. This is the one with just the curves. Well, I am not fully happy with it, but it works quite well. It could be a little bit brighter in the foreground and the back, the lake and the land behind the lake. That works well. The automatic levels tool, well, it worked great on the foreground, and the rest of the image, the lake is a little bit too blue, and the background, I think, is also a little bit too blue. The one I made with levels by hand, it suffers perhaps a bit from me being not so experienced with this tool, but it could be better. But that's not the problem of the levels tool. It's a problem of me not being enough experienced with doing it with the levels instead of the curves. The layers version looks great in the foreground. This is just a bright sunny landscape, but in the background it's also a little bit too blue and well, too colorful. It would need a little bit of additional tweaking to get it right. Perhaps a little bit of a gradient or so. I'll look at the length of the file and perhaps I'll record something of that. If this show doesn't run too long, I'll add a little bit about that. So, which method should you use for your shots? Well, it depends. With layers, you can tweak a lot. You can even add an additional layer and use a layer mask on it and reduce or enhance an effect. And with the levels or curves tool, you are a lot faster, but can't tweak the results afterwards. So it really depends on what you want to achieve and how your image looks like. To get the optimum result, I'll try to tweak this a little bit more. I have here my burn layer at 100% and this at 34%, the overlay again at 100%, and this gives, I think, a good result here for the houses. Perhaps I could go down a little bit with the overlay here. You see here, if I switch off overlay, well, perhaps it looks this way better, but I'll look into it a bit later. If I switch up the second burn, the image gets, well, if I switch off the copy of burn, the second burning, the image gets worse. And this is the result without anything. But here, the second burn is too much. This doesn't look really convincing. So what to do? I just go to the burn copy, I add a layer mask and let this layer mask be white. So I'm changing nothing. And now I take my blend tool, the layer mask is selected, the blend tool is selected, and I have to set some options here. First, it's the gradient. Well, the gradient should be foreground to background color, but my foreground and background colors are off, so I choose here black to white. Back here. Then I want a linear gradient, not a bilinear. That would be not so nice. I want to have a reverse gradient. I want to start with white and end with black. This is set here OK. Now let's try. I want to have white below this point and black above this point. Now I'm just clicking here, pulling that up and releasing the mouse button here. You see, this looks way more convincing. Now let's look again. If I switch on the overlay, does it get better? I really don't know. Perhaps we'll reduce this effect a bit. So let's look. Without and with. I think with a little bit of overlay here, it looks better than without. And this is right for the whole image, so I'll leave it with this as it is now. You can find this image here, the XCF of with a reduced file size, and all the other images at the usual place. I think this was it for this week. Please leave comments on the blog at meetthegimp.org. There you can also find the files I've used in this podcast for a download and trying to experiment with it yourself. If you don't want to leave a comment on the blog, just write me an email at info@meetthegimp.org. And special greetings to all the people I've met in Croatia. And I'll tell more about this and show you some more images next week. Goodbye until then.
photocastnetwork.com, your photography resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com